What's up, Taiwan? I'm Eric Gao, bringing you the news from Taipei this Monday afternoon. The United States and China are set to begin a new round of trade talks in London on Monday, aimed at reducing tensions between the world's two biggest economies. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, and Trade Representative Jameson Greer will meet with their Chinese counterparts led by Vice Premier He Lifeng. The talks will likely focus on U.S. tariffs and export controls, as well as rare earth mineral exports from China. And just before those talks in London, China gave the green light to export some rare earth minerals, most of which had been held up since April. To explain why these minerals matter so much, Alec McDonald spoke to Gracelyn Bascarin from the Center for Strategic and International Studies.
To start off with, could you provide a quick introduction to these heavy rare earth materials?
Rare earth minerals are actually a group of 17 minerals, and they're a bit of a misnomer because they're not actually rare, they're everywhere. They're often found in small quantities and they can be difficult to extract. Now, the restrictions from China this week are actually on heavy rare earths, and there's a reason that we are particularly vulnerable for those. And that is that China holds almost pretty much 100% separation capacity of heavy rare earths. Because when I take rare earths out of the ground, before I can use them, they have to undergo separation and processing. The reality is that for light rare earths, there's some capacity outside of the US with some facilities, small facilities in Malaysia and Estonia. But with heavy rare earths, China was previously processing and separating about 99.5% of heavy rare earths, and there was a small facility in Vietnam. However, that's gone offline for tax reasons. So China now holds this dominance, not a comparative advantage, but an absolute advantage. And this is a really big problem for us because with these rare earth export restrictions means that we can't actually get access to them until China figures out a licensing system.
In the incidents of open conflict, it seems like the U.S. defense industry would not have a resilient supply chain to continue building more tanks, more fighters, more naval vessels as there is attrition in the battlefield. Do they have a backup plan to provide for this supply chain resiliency?
The U.S. Defense Industrial Base is already on the back foot. CSIS put out a report, my colleague Seth Jones, who's the president of our Defense and Security Department last year, where he noted that China is acquiring and manufacturing weapons at a rate of 5 to 6 times what the U.S. is right now. China, he notes, is operating at a wartime posture and the U.S. at a peacetime posture. Now, the U.S. Defense Industrial Base is not at a place where it has the surge capabilities to shore up these capabilities rapidly in the instance of active conflict. Now, you add in the fact that a lot of the strategic materials that I need for conflict, right? Rare earths, antimony, which was banned last year, tungsten, which was banned earlier this year, are things that China is actively stockpiling. And that prevents us from being able to get the materials we need to respond and shore up our capabilities.
So aside from the defense industry, what other industries are we looking at that could be impacted by these export curbs?
A whole range of civilian sectors are at risk. So automotive manufacturing. Automotive executives have already expressed their concern because we're building a relatively less profitable compared to China, electric vehicle sector. And we need rare earths for those permanent magnets in those motors, right? So easy example where supply chain disruption, when you have a limited supply of a material that is both needed for defense and civilian use, defense end uses will generally take priority, especially if there's potential conflict. Then we think about things like medical technology, semiconductors. Semiconductors are crucial for both their dual use, right, for military and civil use. Another example of where restrictions will be consequential. So we do see it to be in a range of strategic technology industries.
That was Gracelyn Bascarin, Director of the Critical Mineral Security Program at CSIS. The White House is raising concerns over China's plans to build a massive new embassy in London, warning that it could pose a national security risk. The proposed new embassy would be near London's financial district and would be over 20 times the size of the existing one. Both U.S. and U.K. officials are worried about its proximity to sensitive communication cables. The project also drew protests back in February, with critics fearing it could be used to monitor dissidents from China and Hong Kong. Threats to British communications are a concern for the U.S. as the two countries share intelligence. Renting a home in Taiwan is getting more expensive, with some people in the capital, Taipei, now spending over half their income on single-room apartments. Government statistics show rent prices across Taiwan hit a record high in February, rising 2.6% from the previous year. Experts say inflation, high housing prices, and more people turning to rentals are driving this increase. Central Taiwan was the most affected, with rents rising 3.2% compared to the year before. Taiwan's rent is growing faster than in much of Europe, where early 2025 increases were under 1%. But it remains far lower than in Australia, where rent surged 8.1% in 2023 and rose another 4.8% in 2024. Social welfare groups are worried that plans to redevelop a Taipei park could leave the dozens of homeless people there destitute. As John Van Trieste reports, while they may not have a roof over their heads, they at least have a place to make a living.
These social workers, academics, and activists gathered at the legislature are alarmed at plans to totally revamp Taipei's Bangka Park. The park is a hotspot for people with nowhere else to go, homeless people from across Taiwan. Over the years, it's become a place where those in hard times know they can get some help, access to social workers, a bit of food, and even enough odd jobs to pay for their next meal. But starting this month, the park will be fenced off for up to 2 years, and dozens of people stand to lose what little they have. Xiu knows all about life in the park. She spent 8 years there after a scam group threatened her out of her life savings. Though without a roof over her head, she says in Bangka Park, she and many others found ways to survive. And hers is far from the only story of harsh resilience from the park. National Taiwan University sociologist Huang Kexian spent a year in the park doing research on the people there, and found all sorts of stories of people coming from long distances to get the kind of help available at the park.
某个晚上其实看到一个来自于彰化的40岁的一个女性那她因为离婚的关系，然后回到她的这个娘家，但是娘家的人又想要把她赶出去，她最后走投无路，她就用她最后仅存的钱搭一班火车上来，然后来到艋舺公园因为她从新闻上知道说艋舺公园是一个很有爱心的地方。
Still, even those who find a way to support their basic needs find it tough to get on their feet.
大多数在街上人，他们80%以上都有工作，可是工作并没有办法帮助他们从此离开街头，赚到钱离开街头，而是最多活在一个就是勉强可以活下去，但是还是只能在街上流浪的一个状态。这种多重困境，很多时候包含的是就是有身心疾病，然后或者年老。
The groups gathered here say that closing the park down won't solve the homelessness problem, only spread it elsewhere, to other already crowded spots like Taipei Main Station. They want the city to make a flexible plan to help homeless people find housing near them. They want a national law on homelessness, so helping people is no longer just the burden of local officials that may have stretched budgets. And they say the city needs a plan for the displacement the park's closure will create. The city says it's ready to give homeless people from the park overnight shelter and to help those who've come to Taipei seek shelter back home.
艋舺公园大概有78%的街友都是外县市的，那我们在今年4月份的时候已经召开了街友的跨局处、跨县市的一个合作的会议，那会尽量的协助街友他们能够返乡。
But activists argue this too is just pushing the problem from one place to another rather than solving it, and shows the need for a law on homeless people covering the whole nation. Here in Bangka Park itself, there are few signs that things are about to change. But groups that work with homeless people worry that once the change does come, the disruption will be big. And dozens of people who found a place for themselves here will be uprooted, dispersed, and left to fend for themselves. Hank Xu and John Van Trieste in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Internationally acclaimed zoologist and environmentalist Jane Goodall has visited Taiwan, speaking out in support of environmental protection and wildlife conservation. Our reporter Sandy Chi went to her only public lecture and has this report.
Please welcome Dr. Jane Goodall.
World-renowned chimpanzee expert Jane Goodall making her first public appearance in Taipei in 7 years. In a talk titled Inspiring Hope Through Action, she delivered a powerful message that even in the face of global crises, from wars in Sudan and Gaza to the conflict in Ukraine, there are still reasons to be hopeful.
We're living through pretty dark times right now. Although it sounds strange, I think one of the reasons that I can be hopeful even now is because I grew up in World War II. Some of these terrible wars, although they seem never ending, they will end, and good will prevail over evil.
Goodall also talked about her experiences and conservation efforts, which attendees say was inspirational to hear.
我觉得他最让我们感动的是他的坚持，因为他已经91岁了，从他年轻到现在，他还是一直不放弃。
Some here using the opportunity as a lesson for their children.
Well, we don't get that many opportunities to see Dr. Goodall, and so this was a really unique chance to let the kids be exposed to all the work that she's done and her decades of research. And personally, we are a family that loves animals and conservation, and so this was a wonderful, wonderful opportunity.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting about learning about the chimpanzees and how she discovered so many similarities between humans and chimpanzees.
While in Taiwan, Goodall also went to a coral conservation center in Geelong on the northeast coast, where she praised manufacturing giant Delta Electronics for their efforts to restore coral reefs around the country. A project that has so far preserved more than 40 species of coral native to Taiwan, with the aim of restoring 10,000 coral fragments by the summer.
If you give nature a chance, she will come back. So restoring the coral is really a fantastic idea. The ocean is so important. It's very worrying that it's warming as the globe heats. And what that's going to mean in the future, I don't think we know. But I heard that one species can live in water that's warmer than others. And so that's a hopeful sign.
Goodall also shared her thoughts about Taiwan's overall conservation efforts.
I think Taiwan's doing very well, and several of the restoration programs that exist today are already in one of the books I wrote. And the three projects were: one, the inland salmon, saving it from extinction; one, this very polluted river, working out that by putting it through different plants, it would make the water clean to go out into the ocean; and the third one was the jacana bird, which now has a new wetland because the railroad is going through the old wetland.
This marks Goodall's 18th visit to Taiwan in 29 years, a reflection of her long-standing connection to the country. Back in 1998, she helped establish the Jane Goodall Institution in Taipei, one of several around the world, to help support wildlife research, education, and conservation efforts.
Despite only a quick trip to Taiwan, Goodall's visit here shows her continued dedication to the foundation, helping the country on a journey toward global ecological engagement and environmental protection. Patrick Chan, Chia-hung and Chia in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwanese gymnast Tang has won gold in the men's horizontal bar at the Asian Championships in South Korea.
From Chinese Taipei, Tang.
Tang outscored runner-up Tsunogai Tomoharu from Japan in the event, securing the top spot. Tang's routine had the highest degree of difficulty among the 8 finalists. The win marks Tang's first gold medal at the Asian Championships. His next competition is expected to be in September. And thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Finally, take a look at these Japanese sumo wrestlers taking part in the Tuna Festival in Pingdong down in southern Taiwan. I'm Eric Gao. Take care. We'll see you next time.